it may rewrite history as we know it. We believe that there was a diaspora of Nephilim tribes that fled the area. And the reason why they were fleeing, everything prophetically is lining up. And we are in the last of the last days, in my opinion. I had no idea what was really going on. It's like, wait a minute, only 8 people? And you kind of sit there and go, who is this guy? Only 8 people survived? Once I got that, it changed my life completely. The spirits of the Nephilim are the demons that wander the earth. This is it. Coming great deception. We're here.
Nephilim DNA is something that has caught our audience's attention, and Nephilim in Gaza is something that people have been wondering about. Now with the House of David series that just came out, there's a whole intro to one of the episodes explaining the whole Genesis 6, explaining the mingling of the seed and everything, and it's like this is becoming more and more. People are more and more interested in this, and they need to go to the right places to get answers. Tell me about the DNA evidence that you have just uncovered.
Well, it's groundbreaking. It's not conclusive, and that's why we're doing a deep dive with it. But when you take a human being and you do the DNA, and then you take a Neanderthal DNA. So here's a human being, right? This is 100%. Let's say 100% human being. Neanderthal comes up about 99.5. It's almost exactly their genetic footprint is almost exactly like ours. When you take a gorilla, it's about 98.5%. So it's a little less than ours, but 98.5% identical to what we have. You can take a chimpanzee, it's a little less, maybe 98.4. So when you take the artifact that we have and you sequence it from the area up in Bolivia, Paracas, that area, in Peru, it's only 96% identical.
So
which
tell me
means
where this came from and how you got it.
It came from Bolivia. The artifact came from Bolivia. The gentleman who gave it to me, I have his name, and I lost his email. So I have no way of contacting him. So if you're watching this, please contact me. I would love to talk to you. It came out of Bolivia, near Lake Titicaca, decades ago, when people were taking artifacts out before NAGPRA, before any of this. It sat up in the attic of this guy's house for decades. And he said, would you like to have it? I said, absolutely. And we pulled teeth from the upper jaw, and we have a geneticist who's working on this. And it's fascinating because it may rewrite history as we know it. And that's why we're doing a complete deep dive on the DNA to see, what we really have got here. The fact that it's only 96% similar to a human being it rewrites history because we're looking at a different species. And we know that the carbon-14 dating is about 800 years old. So it's definitely pre-Columbian. And we also know that the genetic imprint, the haplogroup, the mitochondrial DNA, coming from the female side of the equation, you get nuclear DNA from the paternal side, and the other DNA, mitochondrial DNA, from the female side. We know that the haplogroup designates the area of the planet where it comes from, is Middle Eastern. That fits into On the Trail of the Nephilim.
So it's Middle Eastern, but it was found in Bolivia,
which rewrites
Peru.
history.
Yeah.
It does. Okay. And the academics don't like that because it rewrites history. It also completely blows apart the idea that everything moved very slowly, which is what mainstream archaeologists, they hold to an isolationist paradigm, which states, well, things move over millions or thousands of years or whatever, and all this stuff. We're saying, no, we don't believe that. We believe in diffusionism, where people wake up on a Monday morning and go, I'm camped by this river. Where does it go? Quick, let's build a canoe. Let's go. And down the river they go. Oh, we discovered another tribe. Hey, let's trade. And that's what look, when Joshua and Caleb pressed the conquest of Canaan 3,500 years ago, roughly, we believe that there was a diaspora of Nephilim tribes that fled the area. And the reason why they were fleeing, Joshua and Jericho. Just think about that.
Well, as we read the Bible, it often is confusing because sometimes the Bible says that God commanded the Israelites to subdue a nation or to take it over. Another time it says to completely wipe out everything, man, women, child, even livestock in that area.
Right.
With what you're saying about this Nephilim tribes in this area and them having this diaspora, it actually makes a lot more sense because those tribes would have been a hybrid seed.
Exactly,
or whatever.
a hybrid seed.
Yeah.
And that's why the mandate, 45 years ago when I became a Christian and I'm reading the Old Testament, and it's like, who is this God?
Yeah.
Jesus I love, I get. But this God of the Old Testament, he seems to be maniacal, capricious, bloodthirsty. It's like, and then my mentor, one of my mentors, Dr. I.D.E. Thomas's book, changed my life. The Omega Conspiracy. That book literally changed my life. And he talks about the seed war, Genesis 3:15. Gary Stearman talks about the seed war. That's where I really latched on the seed war. Dr. Thomas talked about Genesis 6 and the exegesis of Genesis 6. But it was Gary Stearman who took the step back to Genesis 3:15. And that was, we all just went, wow. That opened up, that connected all the dots. But Dr. I.D.E. Thomas's book, The Omega Conspiracy, that changed my life.
Yeah.
That's why we're here. That book changed my life. And then the Lord said, you remember all that stuff you used to do in the New Age and everything else and, spirit guides and vision quests and all this? Guess what? We're going to revisit that. And he just went like this very slowly. And I was a worship leader for 25 years and just went, this is what I created you for. And here we are, 30 films and 14 books later.
Wow.
Here we are.
So you just alluded to you being in the New Age in the past.
Right.
And so now you are not using those tactics or anything, but you're using that experience and comparing it with things that are going on right now. Because we know that the devil cannot create, he can only destroy and counterfeit.
Right.
And so if that's the counterfeit, then there is a real version of it as well that we need to understand. How has that helped you in your journey?
Well, Jesus is the truth, the life, and the way. And it goes back to Genesis 3:15, the seed of the dragon will be at war with the seed of the woman, the one coming from the woman,
right.
The proto-evangelium, the Messiah will crush the dragon's head. That's the entire book. If we don't understand Genesis 3:15, we don't understand the whole book. I didn't get that till years later. And all of a sudden it was like dominoes. Click, 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 click. Changed my life completely. So, what's in there, what was written will come to pass. What was foretold is unfolding. And that's what we see. Everything prophetically is lining up. And we are in the last of the last days, in my opinion. So knowing Genesis 3:15, having the proper exegesis of Genesis 6, because it's only 3 chapters later,
right,
when the seed of a dragon is full blown. Why does God destroy the earth? And when I got to Noah, I knew about Noah, but I didn't know about Noah. Here I am reading it really for the first time. I grew up Catholic. We never read the Bible. So I had no idea what was really going on. It's like, wait a minute, only 8 people? And you kind of sit there and go, who is this guy? Only 8 people survive? That's genocide. Ah! And it's alarming. And then you get, to the Tower of Babel, and it's like, wait a minute. Why is he doing this? Who is this guy? And then you get to Sodom and Gomorrah. And by this time, it's like, I'm not buying this. I don't know who this guy is, but he's not Jesus, because they didn't understand the seed war. And finally, when you get to the conquest of Canaan, to your point, it's genocide, unless it's a seed war. And that's why Genesis 3:15 is the key. The proper exegesis of Genesis 3:15 is the key that locks the rest of the biblical prophetic narrative. Once I got that, it changed my life completely.
Yeah. So we talked about the conquest of Canaan, and there's been things that have never been deposed. We talked in previous interviews about the Nephilim in Gaza, these Nephilim spirits that have never been deposed, and we read in the Bible that they never got rid of the ones in Gaza.
Right.
That Goliath was from Gath. Where was Gath? In Gaza. There was other ones in that region as well. The Nephilim spirits are still around. Let's just talk a little bit about that with the time.
Well, it's interesting, and here's the caveat: we're not saying that the people living in Gaza are Nephilim. We're not saying that at all. But I do find it interesting with that one banner with the 6 fingers in a fist. We are the flood. Is that deliberate? Do they even know what they're saying? I think it's deliberate, but that's conjecture. It's interesting that the trouble comes from Gaza. It's just it's mind-boggling. I mean, it really is just mind-boggling. And Jonathan Kahn talked about what Hamas means, Gaza, the whole thing. I mean, we saw him at the Prophecy Watchers Conference, which was incredible. The place was packed, by the way. I'm so envious. But no, he did, he's amazing. And bully for you, Jonathan. And it was just great to hear him just go off. Look, the spirits of the Nephilim are the demons that wander the earth. The principalities that have never been deposed are still in place. They're still in place. Just think about when Daniel prays and the angel comes in. Why? So here's the gateway. Here's the portal. And the Prince of Persia is at that gateway. Well, why can't Daniel do an end run? Why, not Daniel. Why can't the angel who's going to visit? So Daniel's over here, but the angel's here, and he's got to go through that gateway, that portal. He has to. Why couldn't he do an end run or go this way or go underneath? Nope. That gateway, that portal is controlled by the Prince of Persia. It's one of the few places in the biblical prophetic narrative that we see the spiritual warfare that's taking place. And the angel can't get through, which means that this principality is somebody
strong,
really, really hard, really tough guy, really powerful. Then it begs the question, well, how do they fight? We're not told. But then jump over to the book of Revelation, same thing. Michael and his angels fight with the devil. Devil's overcome. How are they? They're not arm wrestling there. Okay, 2 out of 3, ready to go. They're not doing that. They're not, thumb wrestling. I think this is conjecture. I think they can be wounded. You can't kill them because they're immortal beings, but I think you can wound them to the point where they're taken out. Why does a little bit of a rabbit trail? So David's got the sling. He's up against the Nephilim, Goliath, 9 foot, 10 foot tall, whatever. And by the way, when you go up, you go out. Huge. And he stuns Goliath. Goliath goes down. What does he do? He decapitates him.
Right.
There's not going to be any regeneration. It's the only way you can kill them, decapitate them. And we're not saying, go out and find a Nephilim and do that. We're not, please don't even think about doing anything like that. Ridiculous. But, the bottom line is the angel has to get reinforcements and then they fight and then he gets through, which is unbelievable. And then that angel says something to Daniel, which to me is one of the most profound statements. And he gives Daniel an idea and the rest of us. Yeah. Seal up the book, Dan. Seal up the book until the time of the end. Seal up the book until the time of the end. And then he tells you what the time of the end is going to look like. Men and women run to and fro over the face of the earth. Knowledge will increase. Well, that's flatlined until modernity. Right. And now everything goes up like this. The book is unsealed. Their seed, Daniel 2:43, their seed will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not cleave to them. Well, if you don't know Genesis 3:15, the word cleave, I got this from Jim Williamson, the word cleave is a marriage contract, which is exactly what we see is going on in the UFO abduction phenomena. This is why, going way back to your earlier questions, this is why the church needs to be aware. There is a breeding program. There is a mingling of the seed. Daniel 2:43 tells us it'll happen in the time of the end, shows us what the time of the end will look like. As we are speaking, men and women are running to and fro over the face of the earth. Knowledge is increasing exponentially every 6 months. So we're here. And guess what? There's a breeding program. The seed is mingling with the seed of men, but there is no marriage contract that we see in Genesis 6 where they took wives. So this is it. Coming great deception. We're here.
Yeah. And they've already explained away the rapture.
Completely.
We have a tract on that. Yeah. And I think that's so powerful because we as believers in Jesus Christ are not going to have to worry about that because the rapture is going to take us up. But there is an explanation that you give. And I'd like you to kind of wrap up our time.
I will. There's a tract that we have. If you write in or give us a donation, we'll send you one free. But if you want to, like 30 or 40 or 50 of them, then, we'll talk. But it's channeled information from a woman who's channeling someone allegedly from the Pleiadian star system. We are the Pleiadians. And this is channel information. So we're told, first of all, not to do this because you're taking in an unfamiliar spirit.
So this would be a demon that disguises as an alien.
It's masquerading as, this thing. And you never take anything in, never. And so this woman is channeling the information. And it basically says this. There's coming a moment, I'm paraphrasing, there's coming a moment in time where many people will be gone on an afternoon. They'll leave the planet in an afternoon because they do not belong here anymore. They do not fit in here anymore because they are stopping the harmony of the earth. I'm not making this stuff up. This was channel information that came through this woman, which we have in the track. But I heard it 50 years ago when I was 24 years old, and in the New Age, I heard the same thing, that people were going to be taken from the planet who aren't ready for the paradigm shift in consciousness. That's how they, the other side of the aisle, right, the dragon and all of his cohorts, will explain the rapture of the church. And it's already in print, and I heard it 50 years ago, and now it's channeled information, and we have it in the track. I wish I was making this stuff up, but I'm not. And it's very alarming when the other side of the aisle has already explained the way the rapture of a church, and the church is asleep and doesn't understand what is about to happen to this planet.
Yeah, we need to be awake for what is to come, and we need to bring all of our neighbors, friends, family to the saving knowledge of Jesus Christ.
Amen.
So that we're all taken up together, because what's to come, the tribulation, does not seem like a fun time.
You don't want to be here
all.
for that. No, thank you.
No, we don't want to be here for the rise of the Antichrist.
No.
So make sure that you grab a hold of the real Christ, Jesus Christ.
Amen.
So, L.A. Marzulli.
Thank you, sir.
It's wonderful to have you here in person. We could talk for hours,
I know we could.
and I know we will do that more as well. But L.A., it's great to have you here.
God bless you. Really good stuff.